Look, the most important thing that you should be doing as soon as you get licensed is calling every single person that's in your database. And if they're not sure what that is, that's your phone.
Real estate's not just about making money, but what I've found through talking to people this year is that the people who are really winning in this market are the ones who came into real estate from a wealth perspective. So I'm really excited to be talking to Tyler Gibson, EXP Realty in the greater Orlando area today. Tyler was someone just like many of you guys listening. He bought his first investment property. He was really interested already in building wealth through real estate, building passive income, all the things we talk about. And he figured I may as well become a realtor in order to help myself and then help others. So, Tyler, welcome to the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, I know I just kind of glossed over and did, a 1.0 job on your introduction here, but why don't you walk us through what you were doing before real estate and kind of walk us through that path that you took to get to where you are now? I mean, you did over $23 million in sales last year. You're doing a lot of things right, but I think people here who might be newer need to hear the origin story so they can draw some comparisons.
Yeah. So, what I was doing before real estate, lots of different things. So, I've had jobs since I was 16 years old. Working hard was something that we learned in our family. So, I've done a lot of customer service jobs. Right as I was getting into real estate, I had just transitioned to a new role where I was doing customer success for a software company. And was coming out of a role where I traveled a lot for work, and there was some reasons why I was moving into a new role. It was mostly so that I didn't have to travel as much. I was going to be a new parent, and I really just wanted to, have time freedom and the ability to never miss a moment for my daughter as she was growing up. I wanted to be at all the ballet recitals and all the things, right? And so that was my motivation and reasoning behind wanting to get into real estate. And COVID happened right around the time that I actually got licensed. So I got licensed in October of 2019, and my daughter was, I think, a month old at that, 2 months old at that time, and then COVID came, starting in January of 2020, and I just went home. I'm not going to work anymore. I told my boss, hey, call me when all these people are done being sick. I've got a small infant at home. I'm going home. But I at that point I had the license, and my goal was to start finding more properties I could add to my real estate portfolio. We had a portfolio of real estate already at that point, and I was looking to try to grow and expand that and build passive income so that I could have that time freedom to never miss a moment with my daughter. Because I
It's super
knew that
interesting already because so many realtors have this misconception that they missed the big boom that was 2012 through 2019 when the market was easy because there were plenty of houses, there were plenty of buyers, prices went up a little bit every year, but not too much to discourage you. And then, COVID hit, rates went to 3%, and real estate caught fire. And all of a sudden, although there was a lot of money to be made, it was a very small percentage of agents making all the money working with a very small subset of clients. And you went through that same thing. You got started when things became the hardest, in a time where you couldn't even really go out there and network. Although Florida, I have to tease you guys, you guys had a different set of rules you were playing by.
well, and that's exactly it, right? It was a totally different marketplace, and so I think there were a lot of people that we worked with a lot of out-of-state folks during 2020 and 2021, and even the early part of 2022 that wanted to get into the Florida market for a multitude of different reasons. We saw a big boom in short-term rentals, albeit Disney, and since I had a background in investing, I was able to leverage that to generate business, and so I had I had I actually got into real estate sales from an investment standpoint and actually niched down to specialize in working with investors. And 99% of our business, not 99%, but 90%, close to 90% of our business are folks that find us through an investor education platform. And so, it was a really wild time, right? But I was, COVID was an interesting time. I basically did nothing for about 3 months because of what was happening and employees transitioning to work from home.
Mhm.
The company I was working for was involved with a software product that was in the HR space. And so the people that I would even meet with, they were worried about how to get desks and chairs and computers for people at home, not talking to me about this software that wasn't
Right.
dire to their current situation. So I spent all that time trying to figure out, how do I sell a house? How do I sell a house? How do I sell a house? And I have been fortunate to get involved in a platform called BiggerPockets.com early on as an investor myself. And that ended up being the gateway into selling my first house. And so we've kind of doubled down and leveraged that to continue to grow our business. But
Well, let's double down on that conversation. So I'm very familiar with BiggerPockets, also a real estate investor. And what I thought was really interesting about your approach towards it was that it was something that you were interested in before you even got into real estate, that you had been working on, not for money, but because you truly enjoyed it. And so the minute you actually became a licensed realtor, you already had a little bit of a community, a little bit of a following, or not even a following, you had people that you were engaging with. So walk us through what you were doing with BiggerPockets before you became a realtor, because I think that is going to give people some ideas of how they might take their niche and contribute a little bit more to then get some more.
yeah, so I think it starts with when I got my first rental. I got that first rental check in the mail, and it was the best money I ever made, right? And I was super jazzed about this passive income, and I wanted to figure out how to get more. And so I was doing research, and I was actually looking for a calculator. That's how I even stumbled across BiggerPockets, and this is probably back 2015 when I found it. And I stumbled across it. Somebody actually had a calculator in the forums. This was before they had calculator tools on the platform. And I found out they had a podcast, and I started listening to the podcast a lot, right? And one of the things that Brandon Turner, who's an old host, on some of the original episodes, he talks about how important it is to just add value to other people. If you want to get involved, just add value to other people. And so I made a commitment. I couldn't do a whole lot in real estate during that time frame of my life because I was traveling a lot for work. So I listened to a lot of podcasts, educated myself a ton. And but one of the things I could do is I could engage in the platforms. And so I would answer people's questions. I set up some keyword alerts. So here's a little free tip. You can set up keyword alerts, and the system will tell you anytime somebody posts anything with that keyword. So I put Orlando in there. And anytime somebody used the word Orlando, which sometimes there are people named Orlando, FYI,
Maybe
you get that notification too, by the way. Anytime somebody talked about Orlando, Florida, I would go in, see what they were talking about, and I would do my best to add value. Just answer their question, give them a tip, my perspective on the market, what have you, and I would do that consistently. Now, there wasn't people every single day talking about Orlando, so one of the ways that I was able to post every single day, and that's what I made my goal to do, is post every day for a year. Was I went into this section called unanswered discussions, where people had asked a question and nobody had answered it. And I would peruse through and look for one of two things: a question I knew the answer to, or something that I thought was interesting that maybe I didn't know the answer to. And so if I didn't know the answer to it, I would just search it on the platform. And chances are that question got answered somewhere in the forum already. And I would find an answer.
So I have to just stop you right there because I want to make sure everyone listening realizes how friggin' easy this could be. You chose to do this for investment properties, and that's obviously very very much ties into real estate. But think about all of the other ways that someone listening to this that doesn't have a big database or a big network of people could do this. If you're not into investment properties, maybe you're into interior design. You find the interior design forums, the groups, the Facebook groups, all of those communities online. You simply look at what questions are being posted, and then you find the answer, if you don't know it already, somewhere on the internet, and then you answer it and be honestly helpful. That's it.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you think about how many Facebook groups are you a part of? I'm a part of a million. Every single minute of every day, there are people asking questions. If you just took 30 minutes a day, time blocked, to answer other people's questions, especially if they were in groups related to your city, your region, etc., maybe with affluent people, or at least home buying affordable people, you'd be able to create new relationships that way by just simply adding value to them. So, like, again, guys, this is not a strategy for simply people that are into BiggerPockets or investment properties. Almost anyone can use this, and you can tailor it towards any one of your interests that relates back to real estate or to anything that you sell. Tyler, that's genius. Like, you did something that anyone could do, but that most people are too lazy to do themselves.
Well, and for folks that maybe aren't into real estate investing, like me, like I could talk about real estate all day, every day, right? I never get tired of it. So for me, it's a true passion. For folks that aren't like that, what are you passionate about, right? Because maybe you're passionate about cycling or hiking in your area. Start a Facebook group about that, and start sharing value. Start telling people what are the best trails in your area to go hiking or mountain biking or what have you. Post videos about those particular areas, share maps on how do you get to it, right? Like, do things like that and build a community around the thing that you really love doing.
And what's interesting about that too is that in sales, it doesn't really matter why people are reaching out to you as long as they're reaching out. Because what's every team lead and broker say? Right? Like, if you were to listen to like every single EXP call that's being done today, they're all telling agents, reach out to people, reach out to your past clients, reach out to your leads, touch them, touch them, touch them. But most people don't because they don't know what to say. Additionally, it's better if they're calling you. So when I post about a great new restaurant in Grand Rapids, I post a lot about traveling with my kids and travel tips for parents with young kids. When my clients reach out to me because of that, I can then, after I answer their question, take the conversation anywhere else I want to take it to. And it's much more organic because they reached out to me. Tyler, it's great advice. I mean, anyone could do this with any passion or niche that you're a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just leveraged that, and I would go find the answer. I would actually go back and share a link to the original post, because typically there are a lot of comments, question, and other replies, and there's tons of value in the forums there. And so I would just say, hey, I actually found a great answer over here. And so what happened is people like it, thumbs up it, what have you, and so you start to build credibility across the platform. And I think that's one of the things that really helped me. And then they launched a paid program that we still
Well, I saw how much money
participate
you were
in.
making, and they were like, "Hey, let's charge people more for this."
Yeah.
Well, I
So
want to just really quick go back. You mentioned keyword alerts. I'm familiar with this, but I want to make sure other people are. There are 10,000 websites out there that have discussion boards, and many of them will let you set up a free keyword alert where you could type in, I usually use quotations, um, and I will set up an alert that says, if someone mentions Grand Rapids, if someone mentions this specific type of rental property, send me an email. Now, if you're using a software that doesn't have that built in, there are still ways to do it. You might just need some third-party software. So for instance, like, I use Reddit, and I set up a keyword alert for Reddit via a third-party Zapier type software, and I get an alert anytime someone mentions mortgage Grand Rapids or mortgage in any Grand Rapids forum. And then what I do is I simply get that email that someone mentioned it, and then I email 10 of my friends or colleagues that are on Reddit and ask them to recommend me and name drop me or one of my salespeople in that thread in the next couple hours. We've converted probably 10 of those this year. It's super, super easy. You can also set up a Google alert. So that makes it easy. So anytime a new news article comes out, a website comes out about a topic that you want to follow or care about, or it could just be your name, could be your company's name, could be real estate Grand Rapids, real estate Orlando, Google will email you. And this is, again, free to set up. So I just wanted to explain that really quick because I thought it's a great idea and I didn't want to just gloss over that.
yeah, and BiggerPockets makes it super easy. You can anyone can get a free profile and interact on the forums for free. If you're an agent and you're listening and you're thinking about doing this, lead with value. And yeah, I'll share one more thing about that at the very end.
Okay. Well, Tyler, I know a lot of the guests I have, we talk a lot about all this business we're getting organically from our sphere, and just that's great. But you also do some paid lead buying, where you write a check, leads come in, and I want to hear about that because we don't hear a lot about that on the show, and I want to hear about what your conversion's been, and what you've done to kind of optimize and do better with it. Because just writing the check is probably not good enough these days in a competitive market. So I want to hear about what you're buying, what you're spending, what your ROI is. I want to hear all the numbers. Math excites me on this.
Yeah, so I want to start by saying I stumbled across something that really works, and we optimized it over time. But I have also tried lots of things that didn't work, and most of the time that it didn't work, it's because I didn't do the work required. Right? I think the number one thing that any agent needs to consider, needs to know, and be committed to if they're going to do any kind of paid lead, is figuring out speed to lead, right? And immediately getting in front of them, whether it's on the phone or some other kind of digital medium. You need to be able to get in contact with people quickly.
Yeah, like
Um,
let me just give an example of that. If a lead comes in and it goes to your email and it doesn't get called until you have time, that is a waste of a lead. Your chance of conversion goes down by, I think, 400% if you do not contact that lead within 5 minutes of when that lead comes in, day or
yeah,
night. So when we're talking about speed to lead, we're not saying like you should call them as soon as possible. We're saying like you absolutely need to have a system in place to ensure that a communication that's somewhat relevant to their inquiry goes out to them as soon as that lead initially comes in.
yeah. So because of investors, I was on BiggerPockets.com. I updated my profile that I had a real estate license, and they contacted me because I had been so active on the forums and offered to give me access to a paid feature that they had, that would give me, make me look like a professional realtor on their website. And I had a little lead form, and somebody filled one of those out, and that was how I sold my first house. But shortly afterwards, they called me and said, "Hey, we're going to do this thing where we're going to run ads for you." And at the time, it was just banner ads. Basically, if someone was in your zip code by their IP address, or they were searching keywords about your city market area, they would show, contact an agent, and show my face and kind of follow them around the website. Um, and I had a full time job at the time. I didn't need the commission check that I had received. And I thought, sure, let's see if I can turn $800 into another $8,000 check, right? Because I just made about $8,000 from the deal that I had done, and I started to have a lot more conversations. And initially, in the early days, I was able to just reply back to him via email and set up an appointment for him. But as I started to get more and more people contacting me, I needed to make it a little bit better because I had a full-time job, and one of the things I was committed to was doing a good job for my employer at the time. But I also wanted to talk to these people and create and help them, right? And I think that's one of the other things about my early days that I think I would share with folks. I actually got a lot of credibility and trust immediately from perfect strangers because I told them, "Hey, I want to be honest with you. I have a job where I have a salary job. This is important for you to know because I'm not always available right away, but I will reply to you as soon as I possibly can. Usually via text message. It can be a couple of minutes, but if you need a phone call, I will make time to call you." Um, but the other thing that's important about that is that I don't need you to buy a house for me to pay for my bills and to feed my daughter. So, you know, I just really want to help in any way that I possibly can. And that was my approach to all of these strangers that I was talking to that were interested in buying real estate in Florida during a really wild and crazy time.
I think that's actually an interesting note for other people listening is that you need to make sure that you don't reek of desperation in your sales attempts.
That's
So
exactly it.
I think yes, a lot of people would cringe at like, oh, like hey, you work with me, but I'm not full time. I have another job. You're not my number one priority. Like, yes, if you say it like that, it kind of sucks. However, what you're also saying is, hey, I'm going to do a great job for you because I'm passionate about real estate. This is like the world's best hobby ever because I can help you. I can help you build wealth. It excites me. I enjoy doing it. But these are the times you're going to expect to hear from me. This is what's going to be being worked on in the background, and this is the communication cadence that we should set ahead of time.
Yeah.
If you can set it up and be honest with those expectations ahead of time, it's still okay. And I just wanted to preface that for all of the part-time agents out there listening.
Yeah. And I had one major advantage over a lot of other part timers in that I already had real estate as an investment, and I was talking to people that were interested in investing. And so the fact that I was able to say, "No, I get it. I'm a landlord. That gave them just this whole new level of confidence in me and my knowledge and my abilities, because for many of them, they were trying to get their first rental. And so, you know, I'm instantly on the side of the table they want to get to. That lends a lot
Yeah,
of
you're
credibility.
a normal guy who's not yet wealthy, who has a full time job and is using his full time job income to fund a rental property to start passive income and then replicate. So
Yep,
they are totally cool working with you because you are exactly who they want to be in 12 months, and you have the roadmap, and you are the roadmap, and you just did it.
exactly. So, yeah, and so we started doing that. The program has evolved since, and so today we pay a specific amount. We know that we're going to get a specific number of leads off of that investment. We don't know what kind of leads they're going to be. I would say that we close one out of every 25 leads, usually in 90 days to 6 months, which is pretty good for us. But we convert about 50% of them to a booked appointment where they are expecting you to show up and call them, um, without ever picking up the phone. And we did that because at one point I started to get enough inquiries that I needed to be faster to connect with them. And I couldn't stop what I was in the middle of to be able to do it. And so I reached out to a friend of mine that helped me build some automations that would immediately send an email and then a follow-up text message. And we wrote the text messages in such a way that they didn't look like spam. They didn't look like they were automated. And we just encouraged people to book a time. Hey, I saw that you reached out. I'd really love to chat with you. Here's a link to my calendar. Find a time that's convenient to you. I'm really looking forward to talking to you. And we've since expanded and tweaked it and done other things, but it's essentially the same thing. We email and text, and then text and text and text until somebody replies, right? And either leave me alone, or yeah, I'd love to talk to you, and then we have a conversation. We do a discovery call with that person because we don't really know what they're looking to do. I need to find out, and I do that because I might not be the right fit for that person, and that's okay too. And so at this point, we sort these opportunities instead of chase leads.
I love that. Sorting opportunities versus chasing leads. And really, it sounds like a very goal based approach, right? So, anyone that calls in, you have to have that conversation to establish what are you guys really looking to do here so that they feel that you're listening. Because I think too many people call and they're like, hey, yep, let's schedule a showing, let's get together, I'll get you a buyer's agency. You haven't really, you're trying to close them before you know what they want to do. They don't feel listened to, they don't feel heard. And you've really figured out a better way to, number one, ensure that you're communicating quickly, but then also asking them their goals so that they feel heard by you.
Yep.
So Tyler, aside from all the awesome investment stuff you're doing, BiggerPockets stuff that you're doing, what else is working really well in your business right now?
I think just building strong relationships. You know, we're now 5 years into it. We've been fortunate to have some early success, and now those people that we helped early on are returning, either with referrals from friends and family, or they're looking to do another transaction. And I think that's the other part of working with investors that, to me, I think every agent should have a book of investors that they work with, because investors don't buy one house every 7 years, right? They buy one a year, right? Some of them more than that. And so, just by building those really strong networks and working on those relationships, um, is huge. And having a team helps because it helps multiplying efforts. And so we are encouraging everyone on our team to just stay connected with the people that are in their life, and don't be salesy. Follow the Ford method.
Yep, family,
Family,
occupation,
occupation, recreation, dreams, right? And I tell folks, and this is a great lesson for any new agents that might be listening. Look, the most important thing that you should be doing as soon as you get licensed is calling every single person that's in your database. And if they're not sure what that is, that's your phone. Everybody that you know, like, if you don't know who that person is, maybe you should delete them, right? But
right?
if you know who it is, call them And don't say, hey, I'm a realtor. Call and say, hey, how are you doing? I realize it's been a long time since we last caught up. How's your family? How's work? What are you doing for fun these days? Right? And of course, you should go deeper on each of these topics as you're talking with them. But we teach all of our new agents that you should just bombard them with who, what, how questions back. After they get done telling you, ask them another question, and just keep it about them for as long as they'll let you, because eventually they'll feel the social requirement to say, "Hey, how are you doing?"
Yeah, you're
Right?
you're just working it until you can goad them into asking about yourself.
I mean,
Um,
you're not trying to goad them. Be genuine and be. I mean, they're your friend, so be genuine in learning about their lives. Right? You might find something that you didn't even know about, and we talk to them about listening for pain and pleasure. Right? Oh, we went to the beach and we really love it over there. We wish you could spend more time there. Hey, that's a pleasure cue.
Tyler, can you help me buy a house at the beach?
Well, my response would be, yeah, you guys like spending time over there? If there was a way you could buy over there and offset the cost, is that something you might be interested in?
Yeah, tell me more. How would that work?
Well, there's actually a really great tax loophole where if you buy a short-term rental, you can actually reduce your tax burden a ton. Let's set up at a time to sit down and we can walk through. We talk about the whole thing.
Easy.
Make sure your
You give
spouse is
them
there
just the
too.
tip of the iceberg. You're not
Yeah.
trying to close them right on the phone. You give them the tip of that's a huge mistake a lot of people make. Give them the tip of the iceberg, and then you use that to be like, hey, dude, we talk about this. We talk about a lot of other stuff. Let's just grab coffee. I'd love to catch up with you, man.
Yeah, but I mean, if you listen for those cues, or maybe they're super long commute traveling to work, right? Or a parent died, or you never know, right? Mom and dad are going to have to come live with us. Guess what? That's not going to be sustainable in their current house, right? So, just being intentional with your relationships with the people that already know, like, and trust you, and then eventually they're going to say, "What are you doing?" And
Right.
now you can say, well, actually, I'm really excited. I just got involved in real estate. And if you're smart, you joined a team. And so now you can leverage the team as the experience. I've joined this great team. The team leader, he does all these great things, what have you. Um, as a matter of fact, it probably isn't for you, but who do you know that might be interested in investing in real estate? Guess what? I said it's probably not for you, but who do you know that might? Now they might say, actually, I might be interested in that, right? And if nothing else, you shut up and you let them think about it. And we always say, who do you know? Not do you know somebody? Because
Right.
our brains answer the questions we ask. And if I ask you, do you know anybody? It's way easier to say no than to have to think about it. But if I don't give you the option of no, and I say, who do you know? You're going to think. And
Yeah,
if you don't
we
know,
never do we never do yes no questions because the answer is always no, and
yeah,
it ends the conversation. Well, Tyler, this conversation's been awesome. If someone out there has someone who's moving to Florida or thinking about moving to Florida, or in general wants information on bigger pockets or any of the stuff that they heard today, how could they get a hold of you?
yeah. So best way to reach me is just go to our website, fill out some sort of a interest form. Our website is www.gpghome.com. Folks can also find me over on Facebook or Instagram. Facebook, it's real.tylergibson. Instagram, it's real_Tyler Gibson. And yeah, if there's any agents that want to learn more about how to get free leads from BiggerPockets, I'd be happy to chat with them and show them exactly how I did it starting out, and talk to them about anything else that might be helpful.
Tyler, thanks for being on the pod today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.